And yes, because we value relationships. And she said to me, I miss Cody too. So I'm serious, they had lunch dates. Cody and the tardy slip lady had lunch dates. Yeah, and so then my next son, who had never been late, so I'm kind of giving him this middle class value, we're going to be on time. We get there late one day and he freaked. He didn't know what to do. Cody, if you think about that bridge, he was social capital. He said, oh, Casey, it's no big deal. You go in and we get to meet this really nice lady and she'll give you a piece of paper. You just give it to your teacher and no one cares. Everything's fine. You go on with your day. So he taught him a little rule of poverty. But it was amazing to me that was the relationship and that's what we value. And he missed the tardy slip lady. So we have a common view. Many times we believe in fates, and it's hard to believe that good things are really going to happen to us. We're waiting for the other shoe to fall because it always has. Roles for men are often fight or flight. Women are often the caretakers in poverty. The mating dance. I put Erin Brockovich up here on the left, Julia Roberts, because when she goes to the waterboard, I'm not sure if you've seen it, it's a great movie to watch with this in mind, with the rules of poverty, because she comes in and obviously she uses God's gift and says to the gentleman behind the counter, oh, I love your pants. Those are really nice. And, what do you know? And, she writes her name down. So you're married? No, I'm not married. So she's using this mating dance, but to get what she needs, to get a resource. In poverty, that is viewed as, of course you would do that. Think about when you've gotten pulled over by a police officer. How many smile? How many have cried? How many have, tried a couple of different things to not get the ticket? My husband's going to kill me, or oh my, That is the same type of a skill that we look at as, that's valuable. Now, you can transfer that into middle class and think about how do you act with your boss? Do you say everything you're thinking? Different registers of language on the right-hand side. Frozen they don't change. So the Lord's Prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance, those are frozen register. Formal is what we're doing right now. I'm talking, but there's an agenda and you raise your hand. 90% of language in poverty is done in casual, which means you can interrupt. It's the way you talk to your friends, where you look at each other and you don't need to say anything because you know why you're both going to laugh. All the reality shows are written in casual register. All of the standardized tests are written in formal register. So if you have not been taught, if no one's taught you how to sit through a faculty meeting that has an agenda, it can be a challenge. I personally would like to skip the reading of the minutes and the really boring stuff, and I would like to get the juicy one at the end. I've had to retrain myself because I can't make it through, or I really am tempted to tell a couple jokes here and there just to liven it up because it seems very boring to me. You guys probably have great, exciting faculty meetings, right? Ours are 2.5 hours long. So interviews, job interviews, the same thing. Learning that turn taking, that if you tell a joke during a job interview, it is not valued. Entertainment and humor is not valued in the business setting. So I have students that talk to me sometimes, and I've had to say, if you said that out here, if you're interviewing for a field placement, that would be inappropriate in that setting. Okay, so different registers of language. Once again, it's just that coaching and teaching through your relationship. And this is the last really big point, is that in poverty, many times, we go from being the child one day to the babysitter the next. So many times in poverty, we take on adult roles very early in life. We take on parent roles very early in life. We are told about what bills aren't paid and what bills are paid. We know when the lights are off, when be turned off because of bills. So from a developmental perspective, we go from child to parent. We never get that chance to learn adult, which is how do you negotiate? How do you not punish, but how do you talk and learn from A to B to C? So I had a student just this week that I realized I talked to her in the parent voice, which was, yeah, I didn't make that face, but maybe I did. But it was probably lecturing, and I was telling her that the way she presented was unprofessional and she should apologize. And she responded in the child voice. So we only know, if you're being the parent, I must be the kid. And she blew, and she let me know that when I pay her bills, I can tell her how to act, and until then, and I looked at it from this morning on my way here and thought, oh yeah, I used the parent voice, because really what I should have used with her was the adult voice, which is non-judgmental and saying to her questions. What do you think? How do you think we should do this? Well, what about this? Maybe we can try that. And that is a really big part in the school, in a classroom setting, is we tend to speak from a parent voice. We lecture. We assume our values are right. And that many times will trigger a child voice response. So decisions are made based on who's going to be there and how fun is it going to be if we're in middle class or in poverty. We've talked about the introductions. Physical and verbal aggression are valued. And then on your PowerPoint, these are just some of the charts. Possessions and poverty, we look at people as possessions. In middle class, we look at things. In wealth, we look at one-of-a-kind objects. Food, if you go to my mom's house, she would say, are you full? If you go to the middle class, sometimes it's how was it prepared? Was it good? So we're looking at the quality. And in wealth, I always say these are the restaurants I leave hungry, because it looked really pretty, but I'm starving still. I talked about time. Education is totally an abstract and not a reality in poverty. The language we touched on. The worldview in poverty, we want to know what's going on local. And I mean really local. The world is really small. I want to look at my local newspaper that says who got arrested, who's getting divorced, okay? Whereas as you go across, you're looking at the national news or maybe the international setting. And so the driving force when you're working with people from poverty is their relationships. And to remember they are operating in survival mode. Your worst panicky day is our normal. And how do we get to the end of the day? So have you started studying for your test? Like, I've got 2 weeks, or I've got a week. I haven't even started reading. That is because that's what that was the programming growing up, and entertainment. So the more entertaining, I use a lot of movies. I do a lot of simulations when I'm teaching. As much physical activity with them getting up out of their chairs, interacting with each other. That is how we're learning. That's the driving force to get us to the next level. So people get out by a number of different ways, but one of the ways that comes into our arena is that we can be the sponsor or the mentor that helps them learn to think different, learn to plan, learn to choose. So what we need is not only education, but the relationship. Oops. Well, to help people get out of poverty. Is that your last slide? Technology sometimes baffles me. And then the end, the last sheet has some references and some readings just